this video, we are going to be converting percents to decimals. And to do this, it helps to remember the definition of a percent. Percent just means per 100 or hundredths. Remember that this root word cent in Latin means 100. So when we see a number like 27%, we think 27 hundredths or 27 per 100. So it really helps to think of hundredths here when we're talking about decimals because we have a decimal place for hundredths. To show 27% as a decimal, that would just be 0.27 because this place gives us tenths and this place gives us hundredths. So just understanding decimal notation helps to make this conversion pretty easily. 27%, 0.27, because this means 27 hundredths. 27% also means 27 hundredths. This next one, 98%. Again, this one is fairly easy, 0.98, because 0.98, when we read that, that's 98 hundredths. And 3%, now we want that 3 to be in the hundredths place because we want it to be 3 hundredths. 3% is 3 hundredths. So when you have a percent that's just one or two digits like this, it's fairly easy to make it a decimal because you just line it up in the hundredths place because percent is hundredths. So again, like 1%. We'd want that 1 to be in the hundredths place to show 1 hundredth. Sometimes when we are converting a percent that is more than two digits or has a decimal within the percent, it's not quite so easy to just line up our hundredths in the hundredths place. So in this case, we still rely on the definition of a percent to help us through this. For example, 100%, we remember that percent means hundredths or per 100. And we think of that maybe first in fraction form. So 100% is 100 out of 100, 100 hundredths. And then we can, in this case, we can just simplify that and that equals 1. So 1 is actually the decimal equivalent of 100%. 100% of something is one of it. This next one, 102%, we can use the same idea of thinking of that fraction first, thinking of it as 102 hundredths. Now, we are dividing by 100. And we should remember that when you divide a number by 100, you just move the decimal point two places to the left. So the decimal point in 102 is here. If we move that decimal point two places to the left, we get 1.02. So the decimal equivalent of 102% is 1.02. Now we can use this same technique anytime you're converting a percent to a decimal. Let's look at this one, 5.25%. That's just 5.25 hundredths. When we divide by 100, we move our decimal point two places to the left. So in this case, we get 0.0525. Again, 1.2%. That's just 1.2 hundredths. Dividing a number by 100 moves the decimal point two places to the left. We get 0.012. Now let's try these two more in our head where we're not first writing it over 100. 0.7%. So we're going to think in our head, that's 0.7 hundredths. If we divide 0.7 by 100, we move our decimal two places to the left. So our answer is 0.007. And this one, 325%. That's 325 hundredths. We can kind of picture that fraction in our head if we want. And then we can think, Well, we're dividing by 100, so we move our decimal point 2 places to the left, and we get 3.25. Now I'm going to show you where this type of conversion is super helpful. When you are taking a percentage of something, for example, say you're taking 47% of 91, and let's say you have a calculator handy. You can do this very easily on a calculator as long as you know how to convert that percent to a decimal. So we know that when we convert percent to a decimal, we're taking hundredths. So if we divide a number by 100, we move the decimal 2 places to the left. This is just 0.47. So 47% of 91 would be 0.47 times 91, which we can easily do on our calculator. Whoops, I think I entered something wrong. 0.47 times 91 equals 42.77. Let's do another example, like 160% of 97. So again, just convert this percent to a decimal first, moving that decimal point 2 places to the left. It becomes 1.6. So we can take 1.6 times 97. So here's our calculator. 1.6 times 97, we get 155.2. So you can see how understanding that conversion from percent to decimal helps you figure these problems out very easily if you have a calculator. All right, go ahead and try the practice sprint, and when you get your speed up, you can try the timed sprint.